Yep.
Yeah, I have pretty much everything that or most of the things that I made. They're all the single vineyard wines, the artist series, the Col Solari, all of those.
Yeah.
Sitting in this one room, stacked quite high.
In the years that I've been doing this, my understanding is that it has to have good acid structure to age.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It definitely helps having that acid structure, which even in the warmer years here in Washington, we really keep that. I mean, we also do tend to be on the earlier picking side, which will influence that acid structure.
Sure.
Certainly, give it more of it. But like even in those nights that might get up to 100 or 105 degrees during the day, you're still getting down to the high 50s, low 60s at night. So we're able to hold those acids a lot better than people would assume.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's pretty lucky.
Yeah, no kidding. And then your pruning system, of course, has to. Do you guys get involved in that part?
Well, to a certain extent. One thing that I've learned over the years is that the best way to manage a vineyard that we don't own is to work with vineyards that are really well managed. And I've had a lot of people who own vineyards tell me that they really like working with us because we're not there in their face all the time saying you should be doing this or you should be doing that.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be necessary. Those folks, that's their life.
Yeah.
They live those vineyards, and if it's a good vineyard and they manage it well, it just has always seemed to me a little awkward and out of place. Because I know some people who make wine like to tell grape growers how they should be doing everything.
Yeah.
But good grape growers know better than anyone how to do it.
Yeah. You got a wine bow. Do you deal with wine bow at all?
Wine bow?
Wine bow. Excuse me.
Yes.
Well, the distributor, we do both.
You can do wine bow
We
and
do
wine
both,
bow.
Yeah. we have the same issue. We always mix them up here. Yeah.
So
Yes.
he's a really good vineyard manager.
Oh, Miguel?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh, yeah.
great. I first worked with Miguel in 1987,
Yeah.
and I've gotten fruit from Winebow every year up to the present from 1987. And I always tell people that this isn't always the case with vineyards, but in the case of Winebow, Miguel really is part of the terroir because it's like he's as integral as everything else up there.
Yeah.
And he's one of the few people who I might say, Miguel, we'd like to pick on Thursday, and he'll say, Mike, I think you should wait until Monday. It's going to be perfect on Monday.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, if Miguel tells me
Yeah.
to wait 3 more days, I'm going to wait 3 more days because that guy just knows that vineyard so well. And he's also great for some other reasons. He's not formally trained in terms of growing grapes. He learned on the job, but probably, I don't know how long ago now, 10, 15 years ago, the Washington Association of Wine Grape Growers, which has now changed their name, picked him as the grower of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Auction of Washington Wines this last year picked him as the grower of the year. And he's a great example of somebody who just lifted himself up by his bootstraps and said, I'm going to figure this out. And he has figured it out as well as anyone ever.
And not just, it's funny, when you're out there, sampling, tasting, it's not that he even just knows the vineyard. There's times when he feels like he knows every individual vine in that place. He'll
Yes.
tell you, I'll be looking at the Cabernet, which is block 13, and he might say, hey, go in this many rows and then this many plants and take a peek, see what you think about the clusters there. It's like, wow, you are really on top of this. It's something else to see.
And that Cabernet Franc is the best Cabernet Franc I've ever worked with in Washington State.
Wow.
it's Cabernet Franc is really hard grape to grow well, and he figured it out a long time ago, and he grows
Wow.
extremely well.
Yeah, I love Cab Franc's one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
Right.
One of my favorites. And Carmenere, which you do on
Yeah.
Southern Sojourn.
Yeah. Which are both kind of can be so satisfying, but also difficult for similar reasons
Yeah,
to grow
yeah.
and make. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, Charlie Hoppus told me one time, he said, I don't even go to the vineyard, I just ask Miguel when we should pick. He goes, I trust him. He said, I might go early, but after, when it gets close, I just let Miguel decide.
Charlie worked with Miguel for the first time in 1988. Charlie had just graduated from UC Davis, and and before he graduated, he kept contacting me saying, I'm looking for a job. He was from Wapato up in the Yakima Valley.
Yeah,
And I finally said, I gotta figure out a way to hire this guy because he's so intent on doing this. And so Charlie came to work at that old Longview Snoqualmie Winery
mm-hmm.
and worked with me starting in 1988. And he was a joy from the very beginning to be around.
Yeah,
And then when I went to Ste. Michelle, I hired him a few months after that.
yeah. Did they do Preston? Was that?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait a second. He did.
I thought he worked with Rob
You know,
Griffin.
I think he did Eric Rindahl at Waterbury. So he left the Longview Snoqualmie Winery probably about 4 or 5 months before me, because the whole time we were there, that winery was in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We went into bankruptcy 3 weeks after I got there. And
Good timing.
and it just looked like it wasn't going to make it. And so Charlie finally said, I should go get a job where I know that I'm going to have a continuing paycheck. But I thought it was Waterbury. It was either, it could have been Rob Griffin. I just don't remember anymore.
Yeah, for some reason that just sticks in my head that
Yeah,
Rob
it's-
and Charlie Hoppus worked together.
You would assume at some point that they
Yeah.
would have
Well,
crossed.
yeah, whoever he worked with, I think he worked with for about probably 6 or 8 months, and then I called and said, so I can hire you at Ste. Michelle, and he was pretty keen to do that.
Yeah.
So
Not a bad gig.
yeah, and we had worked together for a couple of years and enjoyed working with each other.
Yeah, well, that's important.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about a lot of stuff here, and I think it's really cool that we have 2 generations. Well, come say hi, Don. So this is the brother, Don, who's helping with the filming part of it.
Howdy.
To see this family that's excelling and doing so well in wine, what would be your best advice to anybody that is in a family and they're growing up in a winemaking family? What would be the best advice to the parents? I think I know what Mike's going to say, but best advice to parents to encourage their kids to do it without encouraging them. Is that? Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of ways is if they are interested, bring them in for the fun stuff. At least initially,
Yeah.
because really the fun stuff it's different. For me, it was working in cellar, working harvest, seeing the really kind of incredible process and transformation that's happening with the wines, and even at a young age, I think it's a very kind of visceral thing that's happening, and being a part of that, I still remember,
Yeah.
from even before starting Januik, spending time growing up, on the Ste. Michelle campus.
Yeah.
But then also I think as that things continue, you do have to expose to the reality of the difficulties of it, because it's not just, rainbows and sunshine, owning a small business, and especially in such a competitive industry.
Yeah.
But I think our parents were always very open and honest about just both the pluses and negatives of being a part of it, and then letting us just decide for ourselves.
Yeah.
When these guys went to college, I know that we never said to either one of them, we think you should study this or study that. Because Carolyn and I both thought that was a mistake. They're entering adulthood, and what better thing to do is to choose your own path in life.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd tell parents in that situation is don't put any pressure on your kids. If at worst they're going to resent it, if it's meant to be, it'll work out.
Yeah. That's great advice. Just don't force them.
Yeah,
Yep.
don't force your kid to be a winemaker. It's such a multifaceted business that you can
Don
do a lot.
Yeah, Don.
For people with
Yeah,
ADHD
he
like
has,
myself, there are a lot of things that kind of keep me moving.
Yeah, he is overseeing all of our upstairs stuff. With tasting room events, wine club, all of that stuff, and I think he's found his niche, and he does a great job.
One thing we keep hearing from, Silicon Valley Bank does a lot of kind of industry analysis, and they keep kind of iterating the idea that wineries are not putting enough into marketing, which is one thing that I'm kind of doing amongst other things. There's just a whole side of the business there that just really hasn't been tapped into.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of young people have, quite a natural acumen for something like that. So
Yeah.
and it may evolve into wine to make wine.
Yeah. It's something I've written about a few times, is that the wineries really kind of depend on critics and people, bloggers, whatever, to kind of expose their winery, where there should be ones that are exposing their winery and letting people see it. But you guys are really successful. Your wines are really good, and I really like your projects that you're doing on the side as well. And it's just really cool to see this generation following Dad, winemaking and taking care of the winery on the technical side and the marketing side and all that. That's just really cool. It speaks volumes about Mike and his advice to just don't, arm wrestle him to do what you want him to do.
But like you're saying, for wineries like us who are, small businesses, or wineries in the Columbia Valley, that is such an emerging wine region, but not as in the spotlight as of course the places that have been making it for millennia.
Sure.
or even like Napa. It's so important to get exposure in any way we can, and wineries are doing it, some critics, but it's also people like you, Stan. Like the amount that you've done for us personally in our industry is, really incredible. It's they don't call you Stan the Man for nothing. So thank you.
Yeah. Just real quick before we wrap this up, do you see an up and coming star in the Washington wine industry right now, as far as winemaking and
I think there's a lot. No.
Yeah.
I was
That goes without
no, I
saying.
know. I think
No.
the thing is that's exciting is that I think there's so many, especially because, even 7-8 years ago, obviously W2 had already started the program, but we'd still, when we were hiring people, maybe we'd get somebody who had a degree from there every once in a while, but now we're getting hit with so many people who are so passionate and coming out of school, and they want to learn, they want to work hard, and they have a base for that. So I went to UW, I'm a Husky, so I don't want to give too much credit for WSU, but what they've done to really, I think, kind of breed the next exciting group of people for the industry has been really commendable. So
Yeah.
I think we're just going to continue this huge path of growth and people making exciting things because of that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And of course, he is a rising star in the Washington wine
Oh,
scene.
thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking a little time out of your day. Thank you guys for being a part of this. It's been very cool discussion. If you get a chance, subscribe to the channel. you keep watching, and I'll keep helping you spend your wine dollars wisely and learn